For many, the past 3 weeks of Dragon Ball Daima have left much to be desired, and it's now come down to these last 5 episodes, and really how these last 5 episodes stick the landing, because the final battle has begun. Let's talk about Dragon Ball Daima episode 16 called Degesu. Now, I have a mixed opinion on this episode because there's some things about it I liked and I have some criticism. What I liked as far as the overall plot and pacing goes is that the plot did move, things actually got resolved here, and there were revelations that came about, and the final few minutes of the episode has officially now begun the final battle. We're going to talk more about that later in the review. However, the way they got there, I think, could have been sped up a bit. Again, the issue is the pacing is a tad bit slow, but thankfully not as slow as I think a lot of us were worried about. In the next episode preview last week, it seemed like this episode would be focused on the Kempei Tokusatsu, which is the bootleg Ginyu Force, basically. And thankfully, that whole plot thread got resolved very early in the episode. They moved past that pretty quickly. Then they sort of move into this Degesu part, and somewhat. And then that would, of course, lead into the big revelations near the end. Now, remember, at this point, Goku and the group are at the palace. They are at GOMAH's palace in the #1 demon realm, the center demon realm. And here, there's two main goals. One is to rescue Dende, and the other one is to defeat Tamagami 1 and get that final Dragon Ball. Because remember, Goku's group does not know that Majin Ku and Majin Deu already were there, and that Tamagami 1's already given up the Dragon Ball. So the Ginyu Force stuff at the beginning of the episode with Vegeta, he's the one that steps up. It was all pretty much done for comedy. They tried their weapons on Vegeta. He easily dodges them in base form. Just kind of humiliates them, which I think that that's the right way to go about it. These guys are goons. Why even pretend to make it seem like they're a threat? Just move past it. Now, I will say this. Looking back on this, and this is more of a criticism of the entire show, or at least the last few episodes. Now that I look back on it, I don't think these characters were necessary. I think they were there for comic relief, but we already have Majin Ku and Majin Deu, and, you know, Goku and Vegeta's relationship, and some of that kind of stuff to be comic relief. You know what I mean? I feel like when it comes to these, the bootleg Ginyu Force, they didn't really do anything. They just were there. They had that scene with Ku and Deu a couple episodes ago. Here, they just got humiliated by Vegeta and gave up and gave Goku the potato chips. So, it seemed like that entire group was just wasted or just put there for nostalgia, which wasn't really needed because the whole nostalgia of the, you know, Super Sentai, over-the-top superhero stuff was kind of captured by Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 recently in Dragon Ball Super Hero. So, it just feels like that whole group was a waste of time, if you ask me. So, they decided to go into the palace. It's a big castle. Like, there's a lot of floors and stairs, and it really does sort of feel like a JRPG final boss. Now, while that's going on, that little demon girl, the one that traded the hat for the belt that had the third eye on it, she's walking around as the fake Ginyu Force runs off, and she's trying to head to where Goma's at. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, is she going to be the one to give Goma the third eye? Well, we'll talk about it here in a minute. So, what ends up happening is they eventually run into Degesu, and Degesu is holding Dende hostage with the gun pointed at him. We saw this in the next episode preview last week, that this is going to happen. Degesu, and as you know, most of the Supreme Kais are not that strong. Like, they have powers, and maybe they were strong for, like, the Frieza saga, but compared to where Goku and everybody's at now in Daima, there's no fight. So, what ends up happening is he's holding Dende hostage. And again, this is where I'm kind of looking at it like, well, if Goku and Vegeta are so much faster, Shouldn't they be able to blitz him? But I understand. Unlike the last episode, I actually understand why they didn't here, because he's holding an infant Dende, has a gun to his head. Even the slight flinch could fire a blast from that gun and kill the baby. You understand what I'm saying? So I do understand them sort of not going that route, because it only takes half a second, if not less than that, to pull a trigger, right? So at least here it made more sense. What ends up happening is, while they're going through there, Pansy ends up sort of following them in, which it's implied she wasn't going to follow them in, but she ends up following them in as King Kadan and the others, the ones that helped in the last episode, sort of step down and let them do it. And then Glorio follows her. Also, I should note that when they get to Degesu, he's about to take off. Like, he's about to go into one of the Demon Realm ships. So he's getting out of there. And we have our confrontation with Degesu and, of course, Nahare, which is the Supreme Kai, Shin. Which was also a little bit of a letdown, because I was hoping for a tiny bit more backstory on their relationship, if there even was one. But they just kind of flew past that. So Pansy tries to save Dende. They didn't know she was there, but that doesn't work. And then suddenly he gets hit with Hibis's hat, the one that he traded the third eye for, the big, like, sort of life preserver looking hat. He gets hit with it, and turns out that it was Glorio who had it, and Hibis is there too, and it's like, he took my hat. So as Degesu drops Dende, Pansy runs in and grabs him so that, you know, the kid wouldn't hit the ground. The thing about the hat, too, is the hat was kind of... The hat is sort of made of that jello type of material. It's not... And we saw a little bit of it last episode. It's not like a cloth or anything like that. It's that sort of spongy, bouncy material. And so it bounced all over the ground or whatever. Hits Degesu enough so that he drops the kid. Pansy saves the baby Dende. Then Piccolo dashes in with a big chop right to the neck. And Degesu goes down. So that's it. He's out. Now, what ends up happening after that is we have sort of two things going on at once. So they have Dende. He's safe and sound. So they don't have to worry about Degesu or GOMAH killing him or anything like that. They got him. He's safe. And the next thing is, of course, take the ball from the Tamagami. So as Goku and the group is headed to Tamagami 1, GOMAH gets the third eye from the belt. And, well, first... Let me explain a bit more. So the girl, the demon girl, gives him the belt, but he can't get the belt out of the can't get the eye out of the belt. So he tries like spoons and all kinds of these different tools, and he can't pop it out. He goes to use the bathroom and then realizes, oh, I can try the plunger. So he this is Toriyama, like Dr. Slump humor right here. And I'm for it. I think the show's had maybe a bit too much of it, but I'm for it just because I recognize kind of where he's coming from. And so he tries to plunger the eye out, gets it out, but then it goes right back in. Then finally he gets it out, but he doesn't know how to harness the power. So he asks the demon girl to like push it into his forehead, to like literally like grab it and push it deeply into his forehead. And it seems, again, the material of the eye is like a ball, like a bouncy ball, you know, like almost like if there's air inside of it, you know, not like a golf ball or like a baseball, sort of like maybe even I would say like a beach ball. That makes more sense, right? Like a beach ball, a small one. And it's not going in. And then meanwhile, they discover, like while that's going on, Goku and the others discover, because they see Tamagami 1, they're about to face him. Goku and Vegeta both want to test themselves against Tamagami 1. But Pansy notices, wait a minute, the Dragon Ball's not in his stomach. And then Tamagami's like, yeah, I've been beaten for it already. And then that's where Dr. Arinsu appears with Majin Ku and Majin Deu. And Majin Ku is holding the Dragon Ball. So now we have, for the first time in Daima, in the same room, in the same general vicinity, the three demonic Dragon Balls. They are there. And we have a confrontation between Arinsu, Deu, and Ku, and the good guys. Then while that's going on, GOMAH manages to take the third eye and jam it into his forehead. Well, she jams it in, and then he starts to mutate. He starts to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And I've said this before to I've privately said this to some friends of mine, but I haven't publicly said it. Now I'm going to publicly say it. He looks like a Pride Trooper. Like, the colors, the pattern of his clothing, like the white, black, and red colors of the Pride Troopers, like Jiren, he sort of looks like that. So he starts to grow at an alarming rate. He gets bigger, buff, and so the episode ends with him just being a giant monster, like just a bigger version of him with the third eye in his forehead. So this is now the beginning of the end. We have now hit the final battle of Dragon Ball Daima. He has the eye. We've been talking for weeks and weeks about the importance of that eye and the power boost that it gives. So the next episode, we're going to see some of that power. In the next episode preview, they show what seems to be like a battle royale type of battle between, it looks like Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, and them. And Glorio's in there too, fighting Majin Ku and Majin Deu. So now, I don't know if GOMAH is going to interrupt that fight. I don't know where the fusion bugs are going to kick in and when that happens, but it's a situation where, like, the next episode preview looks very action-packed. I mean, there's an animation cut that pans around them, and they're all firing and blasting each other, and just phenomenal stuff animation-wise for the next episode. So GOMAH has now reached his final form, presumably this big magic-based monster. He becomes the first Demon King since, of course, Abura to have the third eye, and that gives him an incredible boost of magic power and power overall. So that's the takeaway from this episode. Could they have gotten there faster? Yes, they could have. I felt like the Ginyu thing was just kind of a waste. Not the scenes in this episode, but just the overall use of them. It just wasn't necessary, in my opinion. But at least now we have a public, clear picture of where this is going, with GOMAH finally getting what he wants, which is harnessing the power of the third eye and being able to just, this is what he wanted. I mean, this is what, all the way back in episode 1, he talked about how this is what he really wanted. Turning Goku and the others into kids was more of a safety precaution because they were worried about what happened to Dabura and with Majin Buu and everything, when in reality they could have stayed in the demon realm and just, maybe, or they could have maybe gone to Earth and used the balls to find the third eye instead of it being more based on fear, and that might have actually worked out better. It's tough to say, but either way, he got what he wanted. He has the third eye now, and to me, that's the biggest takeaway of the episode. So next week, we are down to 4, the final 4 episodes of Daima. Now the battles are supposed to be picking up big time. I hope that they're able to keep this momentum and give everybody a very memorable final few episodes of Daima, so that way the show can be remembered at least more fondly than if it would have crashed and burned. You know what I mean? Some folks are never going to like Daima. It's just not their cup of tea. Others are going to like it no matter what. I just hope that most people find enjoyment, at least in the big finale, which has now begun officially. The one piece of lore which I may talk about in the breakdown is that I guess Degesu and Supreme Kai haven't seen each other in 1,000 years, which seems like a bit too soon. I don't know. That seems like maybe it should have been even further back than that. But hey, it's whatever. I have to look into that and really think about it, because that seems a bit soon. Besides that, a few things here and there that I'll go into tomorrow. So, my thoughts on the episode: it's an improvement. Things are happening. There were some wastes of time here, but it is an improvement. Nowhere near as good as episode 8, episode 12, or even like episode 5 or 6. But I still enjoyed it for the most part. And I think next week is the one where people are going to start talking and coming back to Daima, because we're getting to the end of series now, and that's when stuff's supposed to happen at a very fast pace. So let's see where that goes. Anyways, y'all, take care. See you guys tomorrow, and stay healthy.